Hello, hello. I am Hallow. I've been a runner of All Bosses and Trials Glitchless in Chicory Colorful Tales since basically like the week after the game came out. I finished playing the game, decided I wanted to run this category, and then started routing it and running it. So it's been, 5 years now, which is kind of crazy. Um, Haven't been like super active throughout that entire time, but it's my house. I haven't been in there on this file yet. But by all means, my PB is like a 45-20. I'm second place on the leaderboards, although I don't think I've submitted that one yet because I haven't got a solo video of it. It was on Hotfix recently. But either way, let's talk about this game because I want to record a new tutorial rather than one that's 4 years old and doesn't have some updated tricks. First things, you have, I presume, beaten this game, so let's talk about movement real quick, because that is obviously going to be a huge part of the speedrun, and I'd like to get it out of the way early. The file I'm currently on has just beaten Chapter 3, so we have pretty much all of our relevant abilities, those being, of course, jumping and swimming. These two are about the same speed until Chapter 10. I prefer to swim places because it's slightly more precise. You'll also notice I am on keyboard. I would highly recommend keyboard over controller, I think, for this. Drawing tablet, I think, works for some people, but I use mouse personally. While it does mean your movement is a little bit less precise, all of the other things like being able to, just painting is much easier on a mouse than controller, which you probably know if you've tried playing this game on controller. And so, movement. You'll note that flipping is pretty fast if I get it on like the first frame of hitting the ground. But if I don't, then I slow down significantly because I'm walking. Swimming is about as fast as that first frame. I keep saying flame. First frame flipping. Like they're about the same speed. There's technically a faster way of movement, which is not necessarily faster, but is maybe slightly more consistent than just flipping, which is like dolphin swimming, jumping out of the ink and such. But for the most part, during this run, I am personally going to be painting and swimming places. There are definitely some places where I think that in terms of micro-optimization, this game is a game of micro-optimizations. It might be better to flip just because you have to go in like a very specific direction. But again, because of the sort of end lag if you don't get a flip off, like first frame, then I prefer swimming places, basically. And that means you're going to be painting in front of yourself a lot. This game is fairly input intensive because let's imagine the screen is empty and I'm trying to go a place that I haven't already painted, which will not happen on this screen. You want to paint in front of yourself at all costs so that you can continue swimming. Some other small things, if I'm ever switching screens, I probably am going to, like, especially if it's to a screen I haven't painted before, I'm probably going to let go of swim right before exiting the screen so that I'm not trying to continue swimming. Let's go over here on a place that doesn't have any paint yet and thus getting caught on the edge of my paint. Obviously, you can mitigate that somewhat with flipping after you get flipping post Chapter 3. But yeah, that's most of the movement. One of the other things to note is painting mechanics, specifically the one where your brush sort of gets caught on lines like this. You'll note that we'll usually be using the biggest brush size in almost all parts of the game. The thicker the line, the more you get caught on it. The smaller your brush size, you can also get caught on it a lot more easily. So sometimes this works to our advantage a little bit. Most of the time, it's a bit of a hindrance, so it's just something to keep in mind as you are painting the world, particularly in places where you have to paint small areas that are surrounded by these closed lines. You might want to sometimes like let go of your brush to continue painting on the other side of a wall. And lastly, one more thing to get to is skipping cutscenes. Lots of things in this game are skippable cutscenes, including screen transitions. You'll note that a normal screen transition takes yay long. If I skip the cutscene, it takes yay long. This saves a very significant amount of time throughout the run. I will sometimes double tap, which actually loses time because I'm trying to not, like, miss the skip. It loses a little bit of time compared to just hitting it once, but it sometimes helps me, like, get it sooner. But that said, it's a bad habit. Learning the timing is probably the best way to do it. And also, if you're ever in a situation where you are close to two screen transitions and need to take both of them at some point in the next couple screens, you can do a diagonal screen transition, which saves one entirely. I usually do this by flipping into the corner. It's the most effective and consistent way to do so. And I think that's everything I need to get into before we head out to the title and start a new file. Let's talk about options real quick. I personally have flashing effects and screen shake off just for ease of viewing. Same thing with turning wet sounds off just for the accessibility of anyone who wants to watch the run. Text scroll speed, I have not set this to instant, but I should have, because that will make text a lot faster. Accessibility settings are not allowed for speedruns. You are going to want to be good at dodging the boss fights, and we'll get to those and specific strategies for them once I get to them. Other things that are important is keyboard config. I'm going to take a drink of water. So, let's talk about this. Brush color is always on the mouse wheel. I would recommend using this. Brush size is by default on Alt and X. It's also on the middle mouse button, assuming you have one of those, which most mice do. And I would generally recommend using that rather than X for changing brush size, just because, one second, it's a little cool, so I'm gonna make sure my AC is actually on. Because it's a little easier than clicking X. Zoom you're never going to use, paint and erase are defaults. Swim I have on shift and jump I have on space. I don't remember whether those are defaults or not, but those are the ones I like to use for it so that you can sort of do both at the same time. Brush styles don't matter. I have interact on page up, which is what my side mouse buttons are currently bound to. I have page up and page down. With a key rebinding program for Mac, which is called the USB Overdrive. On Windows, I believe you can do it with AutoHotkey or a program I've used called X-Button Mouse Control, or X-Mouse Button Control, sorry. That's my personal preference. If you don't have a mouse with side buttons, I recommend just finding some other key that will be very easy for you to press without taking your hands off of WASD. The reason why I have it on the side mouse buttons is because skip cutscene I have on page down, so whenever I need to interact and then skip cutscene, I can sort of just roll my thumb. I don't know how well you could see this, but I'll hit the first button and then hit the second button with, like, my knuckle, the inside of my knuckle. And that makes it really easy to hit those buttons, again, without taking my left hand off of WASD. Other things I have set up, I have back I don't know if I ever use. I might use that sometimes, but I have the map camera bound to C, so that I can open that. That's actually not useful, I think, at all in glitchless runs, but in glitched runs you might want it, so that's something I have. I have wherever the pause bind is. Pause. Yeah, I have this bound to Q, so that, again, I can hit it really quickly without moving my hand all the way over to escape. This will be important because we do save and quit a few times throughout the run. And I also have the menu, which will be important for opening the decor menu the one time we need to do that in Chapter 7 or the Rainforest, bound to E. And I think that's pretty much everything to do with menu. But yeah, just overall, most important one here, make sure skip cutscene is bound to something that you can hit quite easily. And with that, let's get into the run. Since text speed is instant, it doesn't matter what your favorite food is, so let's just go with pizza. And we'll get started. First thing, of course, is the sweep. You're going to want to hit interact to start the game, and then we're going to do the sweep. The way I like to do this is sort of doing one bit. As I was saying with brushes getting caught on edges, this happens with the broom as well. So I like to do sort of the top of the screen first, then the middle of the screen, and then for the last one, the bottom of the screen, and you're going to want to, during that, move toward the door. And we just go pick up the brush and take it immediately and head out. We don't need to do anything else before heading to Chapter 1. I'm going to pre-paint a bunch of screens that we're going to swim through later. And here's the first trick of the run. We are going to save and quit on top of one of these after making sure they're unpainted, and we end up on top of this. The plant basically sees in the save file that it is unpainted and thus grown, and we are stuck on top of it. Next up, just traversing several woods. Not that way. I'm doing a bad job of tutorializing this by not remembering where I'm supposed to go. Here, again, you just paint those to fall down. And as per usual, you'll see me sort of painting things ahead of where I am most of the time. This will be a lot more relevant later. Of course, this isn't an area we'll revisit, so I'm not really painting much at all at the moment, but we're going to get straight into the first boss fight. This one, you go around to the left for the stairs. There is one time during this run where the stairs you have to go to the right for, and it is in Chapter 3. But that said, boss fights in this game, you probably know, are music synced. So you tend to gain and lose time in increments of a couple beats or a measure. Here you're going to get really good at drawing circles. This fight is pretty straightforward. Just hit the eyes as soon as they're open. Hopefully as quickly as you can. These lasers do not have a hitbox until the last moment. There's a little bit of an audio cue. So you can just sort of wait to move out of the way, or walk around, whichever you prefer. I tend to wait a little bit more so that I can just sort of dodge at the last moment. And that means that in later fights, when more stuff is happening, I lost a little bit of time there by being a bit slow. Good tutorial moment there. If you get hit, that is also a skippable cutscene, so you're going to want to hit skip cutscene as soon as you realize you've taken damage. Anyway, last phase here. If you hit this eye as soon as possible, you are actually going to lose some time. If you hit it as soon as possible every time, because you'll actually get 5 cycles rather than 4 if you just delay a little bit. And the way to do that is to wait until sort of the end of the musical phrase to get the last hit, and that is a 4 cycle, which is, of course, far faster than a 5 cycle. I skipped cutscene real quick so the decor didn't load. This happens sometimes, don't worry about it. We're going to head into the cave, and you will learn very quickly the layout of these, and how to not paint the mushrooms. I immediately painted a mushroom, of course. Sometimes you can, get really quite stuck on walls in some areas, like that one there. Or crystals, but again, just something you sort of get a feel for after some time. Paint those, and we're heading straight back up to the Wielder Tower to try to talk to Chicory again. We head in, we get an immediate cutscene, and walk right back out, and are off to Potluck for Chapter 2. I'm going to start pre-painting now, because we are going to be swimming through these screens later. So having paint down in advance is, of course, useful. Again, we're going to be swimming over to the right here. Here, important to just sort of remember where the mushrooms are. On some screens, obviously, you can paint a lot more like this one because there's not anything that you don't want to paint. But this one, again, just sort of remembering where the mushrooms are, and then we're out. Pre-paint here. avoid going too close to Dad because you don't want to trigger that cutscene. And start pre-painting pretty much everywhere that we're going to be going, and we can just head straight to the Wielder Temple because we already know the codes. You don't have to go to 11s at all. The way I like to think of this one is a power button. It's just 3 on the outside and then up the middle. This scene, just remember the code and you want to make sure you exit it before the phone goes off. This one is the tree. There's the leaves up top, there's the trunk, and 2 branches pointing out. I highly recommend just, especially for your early runs, just having a reference of all of these codes. Here, if you hit the screen transition while you erase the final things, you will actually skip the cutscene without having to skip the cutscene twice. This one, I tend to like to draw a line straight across, go over to the right side, the left side, and then the bottom. Again, just have the reference for those up. And then here we are at the bottom of the temple. I like to pre-paint here, just to get the little spot we're going to need to swim through later, because it's nice to have it before we gain the ability. You don't need to hit the boss at all during this. We're just going to wait for after the first, yell. Don't need to hit it at all here. So once this little section ends, then we're just going to sort of spam left and right. I actually missed one time there, so I am immediately losing time, which is quite annoying. But I'm about a measure behind right now, which is probably about 2 seconds, unfortunately. Sometimes you can sort of hold down on a boss and get a significant amount of time. The direction this goes is usually sort of the opposite side of the screen to where you're on, but sometimes it'll be a little bit weird. Just sort of, I don't know why it's aiming up there, that was bizarre. Anyway, we got the screen, immediately hit up here, again, after the screen. First tentacle. Second tentacle, this one has invincibility on the first one. And then I got hit, so it slowed me down significantly. But then on this part, again, it's going to sort of aim wherever you are, so you can sort of get to a position where it's going to not really hinder you. And then I like to try and stay sort of toward the outside of the screen for these. And whenever these come out, obviously you want to kite them as much as you can. You can usually sort of get in the middle of them and be fine. Oop. Oh, that was close. We get the several lasers here. Again, I sort of like to stay in the line of fire for a moment, and then you will need to, at some point, probably double back, just to avoid the big attack, and then these ones just stand in the middle of the two, and you're pretty much always safe. And that's the Chapter 2 boss. And then just dodge the final lasers, 3 hits 3 times on both eyes. After the final hits, just spam skip cutscene until it gives it to you, and we're on to Chapter 3. Pick up the brush, and we are now going to be swimming places. So now is the part where the run gets more difficult, because you are constantly having to paint in front of where you're moving. As you saw, I am going to be probably letting go of swim right before I exit a screen to make sure I have some paint on the ground. In theory, if you've pre-painted the ground, you don't need to do this, but force of habit, I tend to just bother. We're going to head straight through Sips River here, and be sad that we only get to hear like 10 seconds of the song as we head back to luncheon. And just sort of draw a straight line across the screen here, and then try and get through the trees as quickly as possible and paint the way down to Gulp Swamp while you're there. We're going to talk to Chicory. I like feeling shy and purple. Don't hit interact again once she paints you, because otherwise you will get more dialogue and a question you have to answer, which is obviously not skippable. And we head straight down to Swamp. don't need to talk to Blackberry here, and we're gonna start going through the vines. Nice thing to remember, it's always the left vine on all of these early screens. This one I'm gonna paint from the back, so it didn't actually work out, but sometimes you generally want the thing to not be flicking when you get to it, because that loses a little bit of time, and if you're pretty perfect with it, you don't lose really any time at all. But we're just going to be sort of heading around, traversing this area. Just sort of dodging around the main screen until we get to the tree. This one we do have to head to the right, and then to the right again over this way. Paint up here. We have our first bubble. These are, of course, the worst item in the game. You only need to blow up one of these rocks, so don't worry about blowing up both of them. Next thing is the code in the middle here. I tend to not paint much of that screen, and then just sort of spam skip cutscene. Obviously, you'll really get a feel for where on the screen that, like, code entry is when you play the game more. But we're on to this boss. I do not have an auto-clicker installed or a turbo button, but I highly recommend one because we are going to probably lose some time due to suboptimal hits, although you can get one hit there during the cutscene as you skip it. So I'm going to lose a little bit of time due to not getting as many hits as I could be if I had an auto-clicker that worked, but unfortunately the one I usually used on my previous computer lags this one, for some reason. With that said, get a turbo button or a turbo key or an auto-clicker, or something to that effect. They are allowed in this game because otherwise you'll be doing what I'm doing, which is clicking the button a whole lot of times, and that's not great for your hands. I hit the pause button, because I needed to scratch my nose. I did not intend to hit the pause button, but I did anyway. If you're fast, yep, you can get the phase end at that part of the music, which is ideal. Otherwise, you lose a fairly significant amount of time. I unfortunately started swimming there and almost got hit because of it. There will be 2 dashes, and then Chicory will be hittable during this bit. And then once again dodging these. Alright, and if we're fast, we should phase out during this attack. Nice, okay. That was a quite good fight, actually. And then just skip cutscene, spam skip cutscene, pick up brush, and now we can flip. There may be some points where it's optimal to flip that I haven't really thought about because my typical habit lately has just been swimming everywhere, but if there's ever not paint on the ground and you need to get somewhere short, flipping is probably optimal. I just don't have good habits. So we're once again heading right back up to the tower, talking to Chicory and dipping back out, skipping the bug cutscene, and now heading back over to Nibble Tunnel so we can get to dinners. We can flip now, so on this screen we can just flip rather than walking around on the plants. That was bad painting. Brew path is a little tricky. You're going to want to try and make sure that you aren't falling into the pits. Thankfully did not there, despite it being very close, and we're going to head up to dinner. No need to talk to Clementine, we're just going to head up this way and go up to get our transit pass, because as you could imagine, fast travel is useful for a speedrun. I'm just going to say everything here. Select June 30th, unless it's June 30th, which it is currently 2 days away from being. Maybe I'll do some runs on Tuesday evening and get screwed. Here is a good place to do a diagonal screen transition because we need to walk a lot more right than we do down. I tend to do it earlier than that, but then I forgot, and so I did it on the second screen, which is still fine, but maybe a little bit slower. This screen is kind of a pain if you're trying to swim places, so sometimes I just walk around. because there are so many lines that you just sort of get stuck on things. And then we're going to head straight down and to the right and flip down to head into Feast. I tend to leave my brush on full size for the first screen. And then if we move this guy out of the way and save to quit, this is actually slightly faster. Oh, did I get... Hold on. If we save to quit here, we will end up on them. And that is slightly faster than walking around, something I have not even implemented in a run yet. I tend to like to try and keep paint on the ground with that one, so that it never sort of sits down, because if it ever does sit down, then you're losing a little bit of time. Paint those walls in advance, and head up this way, and we're about to get to the skips. I'm going to once again save and quit here. Again, a strategy I need to implement in my run still. Get the bubble on. They tend to have certain places that they like to sit down. But anyway, here's the first skip of the run, or the first major skip, which is, I'm going to do it a few times. You're going to want to sort of flip from here-ish, so we're on the ramp, technically in terms of our, like, vertical layer, and flip down right, and you'll end up here. If you're a bit late, you won't make it. Or if you're a bit too high on the ramp, you won't make it. If you're a bit late, like down here, you won't make it, but other than that, it's actually fairly forgiving. From here, we're going to flip onto this guy from the left, draw them straight left, and then down left flip, and we have now beaten pretty much all of Crookie without doing any of it. I'm going to try and get this friend here to actually stand up so that I can get the bubble onto them. And we just push the bubble across. Make sure you sort of stand on a side of this bubble that won't knock you off the edge. And now set your brush size back to big. Obviously, I set it to small so that there was less paint on the ground for the rock bugs to get distracted by. And we're heading straight into Feast. Here's another good spot for a diagonal screen transition, because we need to go a lot more right than up. Paint up that way in advance, because we are going to need to climb that wall up north. Talk to Drosera, get her ears clean or whatever, or don't. I don't think it matters. And then head right back out. Paint the walls in advance as you fall down here, but also try to like get a little bit of swimming in if you can. And into the mirror fight. First one is always left side, I'm pretty sure. You're just going to sort of paint down in a little bit of an arc. Second one is diagonal. And third one is going to be 6 on each side, and it's a little bit random, so you're going to have to pay attention to where they are and such. I like to be on the left side here. It's 8 hits on their side, 6 hits on your side when they aren't moving. And then they'll start following you again. It's 6 hits on their side, and then 4 following you on theirs, and then we're into phase 2. And just remember the attack pattern here. It's going to be, I believe, 8 hits again on their side. Obviously, you do want to pay attention here. I think I got probably... No, okay, it wasn't super fast. Sometimes you can skip the line attack here, like, entirely, and it's awesome. Ooh, this is... Okay, and now we just sort of hit them on our side. I tend to like to go sort of perpendicular to the divide in the screen, because it tends to make it easier to sort of just spam in one spot and make sure I hit them this way, if I'm on like the same vertical line as them. And then horizontal here. And important to recognize sort of when they start following you. And that was a very good fight. I'm not left clicking, I'm hitting the interact button, which unfortunately does not work for that one in particular, but important tech. You can mash the jump button to climb up walls faster. This will be even more apparent later. Talk to Krenum there, if you remember to. Diagonal screen transition there is maybe slightly faster, maybe not, I'm not entirely sure, but paint the wall, mash your way up. Krenum will stop you if you don't talk to them, so talking to them is obviously slightly faster. And then we head up here. Try to make sure you get your brush on that wall properly, because otherwise you're going to get sort of caught on the edges. and we teleport back to luncheon. Swim straight up to the Wielder Tower. If you haven't painted the front of the Wielder Tower, now's a good time to do so. Obviously, your paint kinda gets slowed down here, but if you're spamming it fast enough, you can kinda keep it on the ground and swim rather than flipping in dark areas. Anyway, this is an auto-scroller, so you can sort of stand here for a while and get a drink of water. That'll work for all of the first 4 attacks, so it's a nice chill moment, and then you have to get out of the way. And make sure that, of course, you're on the inside, so that when it encloses you on the 7th attack, you are not in the way. This fight is nice because there's no real way to lose time. Just skip the cutscene immediately and wait out the music cue. We get the sort of chasing guy. I tend to like to sort of start a ways away and then use flips to get out of the way as it tries to chase me. And it'll dash back to the center, avoid this attack, and then the claws will never actually hit you as they sort of first pop out. So you're going to want to just sort of kite around the outside and then watch out as the spikes come out of the ceiling. But they'll always aim toward you, which is also toward the center of the screen slightly, so they won't get a hit on you there. Last phase, we start with double meteors. And again, just sort of going to be flipping away. You're going to want to try and get them to sort of be in the same place, which I utterly failed to do there, but if they're sort of chasing each other, then it's a lot easier. We then have some claws, again, sort of stay around the outside, but then get back in. These claws will always go toward the center, so you can sort of just stay on the left or right here, and then obviously move in so you don't get hit when this moves in. All stuff that you're going to probably learn more by doing the fight than listening to me talk about it, but I can't talk about it, so I will, and hopefully you internalize like any of that. Pick up the brush, say okay, don't click interact again, and then we're going to head off to dinners. This is, I think, the fastest order of the Wielder Trials, because this is the closest we're going to be to dinners. We can do a couple diagonal screen transitions here. I didn't get one the first one there, but we're just going to swim across here. Flip down, paint stuff in advance because we're going to swim across it later. And then flip up into the water, just head straight vertically up here. My mouse got onto my second monitor. I'll talk about why I have one of those set up and why it matters in Chapter 10. But Brunch Canyon, we're just going to sort of head through as quickly as we can. This one, you take the middle one, and then we're going to, instead of holding swim, just flip off to the left. Here, obviously, swim up the wall. You want to try not to hit that flicking vine before you get to it, because that will slow you down. Here, if you flip right off, you'll actually fall back down again, so you can either flip up left or just move up slightly. And then paint stuff. Oop, I fell down because I'm bad at the game. Something you notice there, sometimes when you get in corners, it'll be a little annoying to actually jump somewhere. Oh, and also, cutscene skip here. If you jump into the water, Chicory will not get to talk to you. Okay, next up is fire. Here we go back to save and quits. This one's sort of around. I actually hit the water before I hit the leaves. But it's important to remember sort of where you have to walk. This one's sort of like an S-curve. So what I'm doing on each save and quit is hitting Q or hitting escape because I'm bad and forget my own keybinds, scrolling down, save and quit, skip that cutscene, continue, skip that cutscene. This one is sort of like the really weird curve up here. I tend to not start moving here because obviously I have not painted the water I need to cross yet. And then just do the movement here. There's probably a slightly quicker way to do that screen, but that's the way that works for me. And then we head up, we skip the cutscene with Blackberry, and we go up and talk to her. here's another fight where having an auto-clicker helps. I believe you might be able to get a hit on her. I think I've got a hit on her like once, but it sort of depends on where she is. Anyway. Just sort of do circles to avoid the dashing attack, and we're going to be clicking her so fast, probably even faster than this because you'll be using an auto-clicker turbo, and skip a bunch of her like sub-phases. In general, you're going to sort of expect 2 chasing attacks per phase. If you get 3, it's unlucky. I don't know whether it's RNG or whether it depends somewhat on the music, but either way. Just going to want to hit her as much as you can, as quickly as you can. And obviously be ready to hit her when she comes out of the paint. My nose is really itchy today, which is annoying, especially when it's only really manifesting in boss fights. Oop. I kind of got jump scared by that attack there. This phase is now slow, unfortunately, but we'll deal with it. There we go. Phase 3 starts with the layered checkerboard, so you'll need to sort of swap. When this attack comes out, you're going to sort of want to guess where she is and then sort of hold down for the first hit, I find. And sort of swipe at wherever she ends up, and that tends to get a hit a bit faster. Sometimes you guess exactly where she's going to pop out, and you feel like a god. Probably going to get a chase momentarily if I had to guess. Oh, I don't know if I got any chases that phase, which was very strange. Anyway, on to Chapter 7. We don't have to pick up the brush for once, so we're just going to head straight back down, and instead of fast traveling, it is actually faster to just go straight to the rainforest. So we're going to sort of climb sideways up these walls. If you see, like, these little bits, they are the fastest way to get up by far. Head down this way, just straight down into the water, now that we can swim in it, and up this way, and we're at the rainforest entrance faster than we could have got there by warping to luncheon. These flowers used to be a lot harder to hit. Now they're a little bit easier, and we're just gonna pick up 4 of the brush flowers, paint stuff in advance of us getting there as per usual. And whenever you are going to be on a flower and will be going the direction it's going, if you erase it, you're going to want to erase it. And don't paint that flower again. Here, I like to sort of paint that in advance. And then get across here, erase, pick up this brush flower, and jump off into the water up here for a diagonal transition, if you can get it. We're going to be skipping the one that's to the left here because it's the slowest and we only need 4. On this screen, you can down left to that flower. Don't fall off, though. Be careful not to fall off, because you will lose a significant amount of time getting back. And then make sure to pick up that flower, because one of my common big mistakes in this run is just forgetting to pick up that flower. And you lose like 20 to 30 seconds off it. Here, I like to paint that one in advance, because sometimes you can weirdly get clipped onto the wall. And then just flip back down. So that's 3 brush flowers, and it's the 3rd waterfall down here. My brush was getting a little bit caught. Make sure that you have the wall there painted by the time you make it there on the vine, because otherwise it will sort of bounce you back. Paint that one twice and the top one once. As per usual, you're going to be erasing on the bottom one, so that's the fastest method of travel. And here's our first, quick time event. We have a cycle to hit. You want to hit this vine sort of as... You want to be in position for that vine as soon as you get onto the screen. And then we're going to head straight down here. Don't go to the other cloud, because we can just skip this. You're going to want to sort of get into this corner, tap up lightly, and flip over there. Walk a little bit to the right, and then flip down right, and then down. It's very particular for some reason on those ledges. Don't talk to Chicory if you can avoid it. And we're going to go to garden and place the brush flowers. Once again, I had my menu bound to E, so that I can hit it super easily there. And I didn't actually talk to Chicory, which would be kind of important, because I do need to end the chapter in order to consider the trial complete and finish the run. We tell Chicory to go to the luncheon cafe because it's the only one we've actually visited, even though we haven't really visited it. We've been on the screen with it, at least. But we don't need to actually go visit her there. She just gets a little sad. But we skip that cutscene, so it doesn't matter. Now we're heading over to Potluck. You can do chapters 8 and 9 in whichever order you like. I tend to like doing chapter 8 first. Because in theory it means slightly less map menuing. A small skip here, you can just sort of flip up there rather than painting the wall and climbing it. And now we swim up the wall of the museum and diagonal transition there to head to the mountain trail. Head over this way. I'm pretty sure there's... I'm gonna try and get this. I'm not sure if it's possible. Yeah, there we go. If you can do that, it's good. If not, just waiting and then flipping to left and then waiting a moment and flipping up is a much safer way of doing that screen. If you're super fast here, you can wait out the cycle, but make sure again that if you paint that geyser early, you don't mess stuff up. That exists? Yeah, I kind of forgot about it until someone did it. This cycle is tricky, of course. You can sort of save it if you're a bit late, but I'm not going to demonstrate that because it's messy. And I recommend sort of saving and quitting to reset the cycle. Speaking of saving and quitting to reset cycles, we're going to be doing a lot of that in Desert Peak. In general, we're going to be using these flowers whenever we can because they were added specifically for speedrunners to paint walls. Save and quit here to reset the cycle so we can get into that cloud sooner. I opened my map by mistake. Wait that cycle out. Here, as soon as the geyser goes, we're gonna make sure we land and save and quit, because that means we can flip over here sooner. Then head up. Here, you need to wait for the wind to be with you, and then wait for the wind to be not against you as you flip back up. It is a long wait. This screen, blow up once. I tend to like to stay swimming here because you can blow up twice without pushing the bubble at all. And then on the third one, you're going to want to push the bubble up, and then as soon as you get high enough to the left. I blew the bubble up too early there by accident, so you can watch me demonstrate it again and blow it up at the correct time and sort of flip as soon as I can. And just match up this wall, no need to go talk to Chicory. Here, if you're fast, you can make that cycle and then save and quit to make the next cycle. Here, if you're super fast, you can make this cycle, which I was not, I'm usually not. And again, you're gonna sort of wanna push it to the right, like, vertical position and then shove it to the left. Don't leave the screen before you blow up the boulder there, because then the boulder will not be blown up. But other than that, heading straight up. A little bit of quick time event there, you want to make it into that cloud. Unfortunately, I jumped a little too late. If you do miss it, again, you can just save and quit to reset the cycle quickly. Here, this screen. If you ever mess up this screen, save and quit immediately because you are going to lose a ton of time waiting for the bubble to respawn otherwise. Then we're heading over to the left. This cycle, you already know how hard this one is. Just time it well. If you mess it up, saving and quitting is probably the fastest way to reset it. And now we head over to the left, wait for these clouds. And that's pretty much all of the screens that require some explanation here. Just paint these flowers as much as you can so that the screen's kind of full of paint. And then head up this way. I'm forgetting to mash jump because I'm bad at the game. I tend to not mash jump off these walls because then you end up flipping and losing a bit of time traversing the non-wall sections. Talk to Chicory, look at the view, and skip the cutscene because the rhythm game is not a required thing. Swim down that waterfall, get some paint on it, and swim down, and it'll be a little bit faster, and we're just going to head straight to the Simmer Springs bench to warp back to Potluck for Spoon's Island. That's never happened before. What? Hold on, we're gonna tell the glitched runners about that one because I just ended up on a screen I have not visited yet without a bench, and okay. Well, I don't know what happened there, but let's pretend we worked to Potluck properly. And we're at the Potluck bench. So we're gonna head down this way through the big drink, just sort of diagonally down here. No need to do diagonal transitions here, and if you're on a screen, you can actually, if you enter a screen via swimming, you can actually just flip on that screen because you won't ever get a respawn. Here, just get over the bottom left one and head down. This one, we don't actually need the bubble. We can just sort of do a flip from here. That's just a down left. As per usual, painting stuff. Head straight over to the left here. We just need those two in the diagonal here, so we can flip over here and then up, right. Here, you just need to paint the middle one here. I painted the right one as well because I'm being foolhardy. Here, just doing the screen as intended. Make sure you paint that one before you flip to it, otherwise you'll like bounce back. Here, what I like to do is just flip down off the bottom. Obviously keep that one up, don't forget it. And then handling bubbles is a little bit tricky. You're going to sort of want to get around to the opposite side to where you want them to go, and you're going to have the easiest time pushing them. This code, I always forget, it's the bottom left two, and then on the right, it's like 3, 4, 7, 9 is one way to think of it. Here, we are going to paint the right two. You don't have to paint this one, obviously. I just like to because it's easier. Here, we're going to paint the middle two, and I like the bottom right as well because it means you don't have to do a flip, and then it's just all of them. Specifically the top left two. Down right flip there, and then we're on our way up to the final puzzle. I go left here first. Here, you can actually just flip across these. This was found in playtesting and not patched because one of the QA testers was a very early glitchless speedrunner. These codes, the way I like to remember them, first one is an L. Flip down here. Gonna head up and unpaint that. This one is a square in the same position as the L. You sort of fill it in. Down right flip there to land on that so you don't have to swim up the wall, and then we're heading across to the right side. You're going to want to do the top one first because we can flip down. This one I like to think of as a disconnected L. And then this one is a V. If you ever realize you've messed up a code, just head back to the screen before you leave it, ideally. And now we are at the end of Chapter 9. You need to talk to Chicory only once, as I talked to her like 4 times. You don't need to make a portrait, so you're just gonna sort of get to the dialogue box sections, and now we can swim faster, so I'm pretty sure at least. So swimming will almost always be faster. We can just sort of flip right here and then immediately start pushing up that bubble. Head up here, and we're going to go to the Gulp Swamp bench. So once we're into the big drink proper, just head sort of up left for a bit. You can either get up the wall there or on this screen, doesn't really matter. And warp straight back to luncheon. And up the tower we go. Talk to Chicory. We should destroy it is the top option. And make sure you don't enter the tower. Skip cutscene here so that you can paint stuff as early as possible. And this is the Lost Woods section. I tend to like painting here. at least for the first part. We'll get one cutscene here. Yeah, swimming is significantly faster. After the first screen with trees, we're going to start sort of flipping up and down. One flip up and a little bit of walking is enough to trigger the progress, but you'll note I'm not skipping screen transitions anymore. After the trees show up, if you skip a screen transition, it won't actually progress you at all through this area. So you want to make sure you don't do that. First one, just hit them as fast as possible. Second one, it's usually going to be one sort of near the center of the screen, I think, that catches you. Skip cutscene, and you're just going to be walking down for the walk of shame through Sift River. And we can just sort of enter and re-exit this screen real fast, and Lemon will appear immediately. Talk to her, skip cutscene, and then head down to where she's waiting for you, which is down this way. You don't need to go very far left because you can walk around the right side of the house, which means you're walking diagonally less, and walking diagonally is slightly slower in terms of going downward. And we head into luncheon, and this is where you want a second monitor. I have not tested whether a third or fourth monitor helps, but what I'm going to do is, in this brush drawing cutscene, my mouse is all the way up in my second monitor up that way in the top right corner. It is positioned diagonally up from this corner. Either corner works, that's just the one I have right now due to where it is and how I use my computer normally, and you'll note this tree is growing very quickly. I still don't know if a third or fourth monitor makes it even faster, but basically the further you are away from like the base of the tree, the faster it's going to grow, and you want that to be in a diagonal direction. And then as soon as you see it zoom all the way out, we are good to go, and head right back up through the rooms here. Painting is a little bit faster because, again, our swim speed is a lot faster now. Of course, it's a little bit faster if you execute it well, but I'm not doing that, so we're going to head into the brush. Wait out the music cue. Unfortunately, you do have to do that. This is not a skippable cutscene. And I tend to like to try and stay like underneath the brush so that it has less moving to do, which in theory should make its attacks come out slightly quicker. I'm not sure if that's the case or not, but either way. Yeah, basically less moving to get into position, in theory, should be faster. I still have not done the science on this, but you'll eventually just very much get used to how the attacks go. The first of those sort of double stomps is the Starburst, and I got hit there, unfortunately. We get 3 dashes, 3 dashes again, and then I tend to like flip up and down there so it doesn't have to adjust vertically to swipe at me the second time. No, this is the Starburst. And then it's going to stop twice again, and then chase you here. If you have an auto clicker which you're running, you're probably going to want to turn it off here because it's going to be easier to hit there. We get 4 dashes, and then a couple stomps, and on to phase 2. And once again, it'll start chasing you. Here is the hardest part of the run. I still do not know exactly how to get Pizza to... Sometimes Pizza will get on their brush really quickly, and I have not been able to do that recently, and I don't know why. If Jay Davis or someone is watching this at any point, please let me know. There's a bit of RNG with regard to how fast the attacks are, but knock them off their bubble with the bubbles and get the hits in on them. They are in a weirdly close spot to the center of the screen. Yeah, you see, we got some RNG here with the slow pattern. then bubbles again. And then on to Chicory phase. No point in hitting her here because it doesn't do anything. Just dodge everything she has. And once she catches you, which is going to be after her second time getting tired, you're going to want to skip cutscene, but not too quickly, because otherwise you will soft lock here. Alright, this section of the boss, again, don't hit her much. Try to kite her attacks away from our Chicory so that she's not forcing our Chicory to jump. There's a significant amount of RNG in this fight. I forget exactly what, like, the numbers are, but I think it's like each throw has an increasing chance of success. I want to say it's like 10%, 30%, 50%, 70%, 90%, 100% or something. So if it feels like this fight is giving you bad RNG, this phase in particular, that's because it is. There we go. That's correct. Okay, thank you, Mushroom Input. Mushroom Man Toad is the world record holder in this category at the time of 43-something. I was not paying attention to the fact that it was a spiral there and almost took a hit, which would have been bad because I've already taken a hit this phase. Okay, Chicory phase done. Next on is Blackberry phase. We can mitigate RNG in this phase by taking damage. You're probably only going to be able to take like 1 damage per attack. But if you take damage and die, Chicory's next throw is guaranteed to succeed, which speeds up this fight so significantly. You're ideally not even going to see Chicory get caught at all. Unfortunately, we did there, so we're going to have to... You got a few iframes, which does make dying a little bit slower. But again, you'll see just how quickly this phase is going by. And Chicory gets caught again, but... Why didn't we get hit there? Okay, there we go. And now again, next throw should succeed. Oh, come on! Absolutely brutal RNG. There we go. Throw, please! This phase should be faster than this. There we go, and now we're on to the final phase of the brush. Skip cutscene, wait out the music cue. And again, I like to try and stay fairly close to the brush so that it doesn't have to move much for its attacks. Except, of course, when it's doing an attack that will originate from itself. In which case, you do want to get out of the way once it starts indicating that the attack's going to start. Shapes. If you wait a fair ways outside, then you can sort of see where the gaps in the shapes are. Yep, this throw generally won't come until after the leaves. Second phase, we see vines to start. I think, again, it is slightly RNG whether throws succeed, but you are pretty much always going to see a certain number of attacks. You're always going to get to at least the shapes phase. Usually, like, one after that, I think. So this should be shapes here. And the attacks are always in the same order. Oop. Yeah, after the third hit, they'll always just sort of expand outward. So then you know where it's safe to go inside. But if you can get inside earlier, that'll make the attack clear faster, although it is kind of risky. Get hit because you're bad at the game. And then don't get hit again because you're good at the game and don't want to lose time. We see shapes here. Okay. There we go. You see, I was able to just sort of dash in there real quick. This one, unfortunately, not. But once we see leaves here, Chicory should be able to get a catch any moment now. But of course, if the brush is not anywhere near the center of the screen, it won't work. And volume warning, that's time. That final sound there, accessibility issue, which I really would like Greg to patch someday, does not care about your volume settings. So I have the volume of everything else in the game set to 5. That one is still playing at 10. But either way, that's time. I think that run was something along the lines of like 47, 48 minutes. I wasn't timing it, but yeah. Hopefully that wasn't too fast. If it was too fast, feel free to like rewind and watch any section over again. If you have any questions about a particular part of the game, let me know in the comments. And yeah, thank you for watching, and hope you enjoy doing runs. If you enjoyed this video and want to see me do more runs, then feel free to drop a subscribe on the YouTube channel or a follow on Twitch. And most importantly, have a great rest of your time zone.